Welcome to this new video. Today we're gonna talk about building avatars. So what do we mean by avatars? We've seen in the previous videos that the first step of building a digital marketing campaign in real estate will be to define your audience. When you define your audience, most of the time you will talk about a social class. For example, you will address a targeted audience that will be between 30 to 50 years old and that live in specific areas. Today, we would like to show you a bit more to show you how we can build further data from the single data you will capture and how you will be able to build what we call segments. Let's say you start by capturing data on your website, and the data we've seen it before would be, for example, a simple email address. So you have paul.smith@gmail.com that just gave you his data, and the only thing you have so far is his email address. So already here, what you will know is which project we're talking about because you know which website he used. You have his email. In that case, depending on the format of the email address, you may or may not have his first name and his last name. And depending on the contact form or the form that you've put on the website, you may have his phone number already. So already from here, what you know is that you know the demand location. So you know the area in which he's looking for projects, for example. And you obviously know the first and last name. Now, further than that, what we do is that we use data management platform where you will be able to have other type of data. For example, we can see the timestamp, the geographic location, and the source that he used to capture the data. So these three things will tell us, for example, if he downloaded the brochure, for example, in the evening in a specific city, then we're able to extrapolate and to be like, okay, that may be his place of residence because it was in the evening and in that city we already know that that's where he lives. Depending on the source, for example, if he went or he landed on the website through a Google search or through Facebook, these are different origin. We're able to tell if the prospect is hot or cold. We've seen that also, like if someone comes to your website because he's done a very specific search on a real estate portal, he will be considered as hotter than if he just did a regular Google search, in which we'll consider him as a cold prospect. Now, the third step will be using the third-party data. And for this, we use the different websites such as LinkedIn or search.ch, for example, in which we'll have public information. So obviously, we're never in breach of confidentiality, of privacy. We always use what's available out there. In that case, from the simple email address, you can run it through these different websites and you can have information about the company he was working for, the different position he's had, his education, the location, his address, or different contact data up until the picture of the prospect. And then we're able to draft some more conclusions such as crossing the company and his position, you may have an idea of his income level already. Then looking at his education and the year he may have graduated, for example, then you have an idea of his age group. And also cross-checking his living address and the location where he is, then you can establish if there is a need to commute or not. So these are the data we can have, and then we always use a CRM, for example, HubSpot, to compute all this data. And what we're trying to do from there is to build what we call segments. So a segment will be, let's call it a subcategory of the targeted audience that will allow you to better interpret what are the next step on how to treat the prospect. For example, you can build three segments. Let's say for 5.5 rooms in Renault, for someone who works in Geneva that has a C-level position, then he will be very likely to buy because we know he's hotter, he's closer to convert than someone who's at the beginning of the process. Second example, second segment for 2.5 or 3.5 room apartment in Fribourg, someone who's between 30 to 39 years old, then, and that may have a plan to have another child. This category, this segment will need more guidance. So then we need to adapt the content that we're showing as we've seen in the remarketing efforts in order to bring him closer to conversion, to keep educating the prospect, to keep telling him how this project may or may not be suited to his needs. The last example, the last segment will be for a 4.5 room apartment in Crissier, for example. Someone working in the region of Lausanne and lives in Zurich, then has a need to commute. So then we can also shape the message focusing on the commuting solution, for example. So these are the segments that we'll have that allow us to really build the avatars a bit further than the very simple definition of an audience by just a age category and a location. So if you have to have the three takeaway from this video is, first of all, to build better avatars, make sure you use internal data analytics to identify the prospects, the needs based on the behavior patterns on the website. Second, make sure you use third-party public data source, and I insist on the fact that the public data, meaning they're available for everyone, so that you can then build the prospect's profile. Third of all, personalize and detail the advertising materials upon derived customer segment, meaning once you've identified your segment, make sure that you personalize the message, make sure that the content that you will distribute out there fits the needs of the specific segments, so that the message will always be accurate and will answer the needs of this segment in particular. Thank you very much for watching this video, and we'll discuss a bit more in the next one.